Welcome to another episode of Andy's Chomping at the Bit, brought to you by Big Andy Media, the official sponsor of every Friday segment of Andy's Chomping at the Bit. So I'm excited to go on part two here with the the support. And so last time I was talking about the receiving end. Now we get to talk about the giving end of support. And this is actually one I feel I'm much more um, comfortable with personally. Um, but there's a fine line with giving support that I've realized, and it took me a long time to find that line and then to respect that line. And what I'm getting at here is there's a point for giving um, where you can actually go too far. Uh, I've done this multiple times. You know, I've put myself in bad situations trying to give, and by that I ended up putting my safety at risk. I put my own life was often in jeopardy from poor decisions like that. Just not knowing the limitations of trying to give support and being supportive. Uh, we often hear the saying, so and so they're selfless. They'd give the shirt off their back, and that's very what's the word? It's very thoughtful, I guess would be the word I'd use for that. Um, and I guess it would be also selfless, but there's a risk in that. So hear me out here. This is also a hypothetical, but it crosses over, so I'll explain that. If you're in, say, there's a blizzard, right? You give the shirt off your back. You're trying to help someone. There's several people that need help. You give the shirt off your back to help someone, and then you freeze to death. You can't help the other people. Okay? Now, I'm not saying don't help the person right there that's freezing. I'm just saying don't take the shirt off your back and kill yourself in the process. There's other, so in that hypothetical situation, so let's just, you know, bunching up in a group, sharing body heat. That would be a better option than shirt off your back. Now, if it was simply, like for someone who's homeless, you give the shirt off your back. Once again, it really depends on the circumstance, but I'm not frowning on being supportive. I'm cautioning on the extent of it and the lack of thought or plan behind it on occasion. It's usually not an issue, but it has been for me. So where I've gone too far trying to be too supportive, and that's just one of the ways that, as an example. Um, the other way that that you can, that I've screwed up on giving support, um, is the way when I take it in. The sometimes, oftentimes, when someone comes and they're looking for support, they're looking for someone to talk to. A lot of the time, listening is the key part of it. They're there. They may be just venting. They need somebody to listen. And I can admit that I'm not always the greatest at it. I'm usually pretty good. I'll say that usually, the vast majority of the time, I'm pretty good at listening. But there's aspects where I struggle with still. Part of it's that I'm a very passionate speaker when I communicate with people. Uh, So I often want to discuss the matter. Um, though I'm getting much better on that end. I think where I still I know where I still struggle, but I'm working on is when someone says something, I I think I reactively try to comfort with essentially with a story of my own or or you know a feedback of how how tough that would be, and that can also work in a positive, as far as empathy. Sometimes I feel though I go too far as the pulling from my experiences for the comfort, and it takes away from the other person's moment, and it's not something that's intentionally done on my end, but it is something I've noticed, and it's something I'm working on as far as being supportive. So it's a work in progress, but it is working. I am working on it. Uh, Now, one of the things I feel it's kind of my go to for my own comfort during hard times, and I think that's why I tend to go this route when I'm trying to be supportive of others. If you're whether it's someone who's struggling mentally, physically, just regardless, I have I have the urge to go to laughter, and I think that part of it was when I was younger. I saw the movie Patch Adams. Good movie. Um, I wasn't too young, but anyway, Robin Williams, great movie, true story too. Uh, but the idea of laughter to help someone through tough times. That's I enjoyed the movie enough that it inspired me enough to try doing the same. And I think I might have been doing that before the movie, but the movie made me feel good about doing that and not. I don't know. For a while, I guess I probably felt a little bit guilty for things like that. And so, as far as the laughter, sometimes, oftentimes, it's merely comedic distraction away from the pain or the suffering. But there are times where I like to can come off as overly positive or optimistic sometimes, but I like to find the light in the whole situation. And there's always, trust me, there is always light in the situation. We don't like looking at it. Um, and there's not always time to focus on, but it's always there. So, giving a horrible hypothetical here, a horrible example here. Say someone is someone is a loved one, a young loved one is suffering, and they don't have much longer, you know, for a positive, right? Not much positive there. Well, the positive is the time you had, the time you still currently have, the final moments. Those are positives. People don't like to hear them in the moment. I assure you they don't, usually. But sometimes you don't just simply say that. If someone is in that situation, my comfort would be, I think I'd focus on it. Wouldn't be a laughter thing, but it would definitely be turning it into a positive or or a positive perspective. The moments you had, the memories you'll be able to keep forever, the positive memories. You know, in 2008, some of you may know this. I may have already said this before. Um, In 2008, my grandpa, on my dad's side, committed suicide. My grandma had passed away about 5 years earlier from a stroke, and he never really recovered from losing her. He never was able to move on. They'd been married for, gosh, 58 or 60 years, something like that. They'd been married for a long, long time. And he was from a time where they didn't believe in mental health and getting help. So obviously, over time, the last couple of years, he was in a bad situation. He had met someone significantly younger than him that was essentially draining him for everything he had, and she'd successfully done that and was getting ready to ditch him, and she was very verbally mean to him at the end here. But anyway, and that's not on her. Like I said, he didn't get help. Um, but he ended up taking his life. So you put the two final years that were really rough, a lot of bad experiences. But I had the ability also to look back and say, I had at least 16 to 17 wonderful years with him in my life. There's a lot more positive memories with him than a few negatives at the end. So yeah, things were bad at the end. Yeah, it was a horrible ending to his life. But there was so much good that he brought into my world, into my life, to the world around him. He was such a good person, a loving person. Anyone that had met him and spent time talking to him, and he talked, would tell you that while my grandma was still alive, at the very least, he was one of the most kind-hearted, loving people you could ever meet. I have the ability to see that now. So now, when someone's struggling, I can take that past trauma, that moment, and be able to take how I see things now and try to help by sharing that. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it doesn't. But it's the effort that matters. It's the thought that matters. If someone asks for advice, I do my best. I won't have to try claiming to be professional on any health advice, whether it be mental, physical, spiritual. All I can do is talk on my own personal experience in my behalf. But, if it's asked, I try. The one thing that I think that a lot of people struggle with, myself at times as well in this, is when we try to support someone, when we give advice. Well, first, we have to understand that when someone asks for advice and we give them advice, it's just that. It's advice. You don't have to take someone's advice. There's a lot of bad advice out there. That's why when you ask for it, you're not telling someone when you ask for advice that you're going to take that advice. You're essentially asking for feedback on what direction to take. You're not taking orders, you're taking suggestions. Okay? So if someone doesn't take your advice, it doesn't mean they didn't listen. Sometimes it does. But sometimes they just felt that wasn't the right path for them. Or they were afraid to take that path. There's a lot of variables that we can assume. We choose to assume the worst on those, but there's a lot of things that go through someone's decisions. Sometimes we give advice. Sometimes we try being supportive. But the people we're trying to be supportive for just don't want the support. And learning to accept that, and with close friends or friends in general, and especially with family, when someone doesn't want your support, it can be tough. And I can't speak on it directly as far as my end of things with my addiction, but I can tell you from the best of my understanding from talking with family and with friends, in those darkest moments I had, they had to pull away. I wasn't listening. I was dragging down. I was misery loves company. It's the reality of it. Well, I think joy loves company too, but that's another story. Misery will try pulling others down. For some reason, it's like sick, twisted comfort. Um, but I was pulling others down in those moments because I didn't want help. You couldn't help me if you tried. It's just how it was at that point in my life. So they had pulled away very wisely. And it was still tough on them because they wanted to be there. I just wouldn't take it. And I'm grateful, though. I am very, very grateful, very blessed that when the time came that I was ready to take that step and change, and I reached out for support, a lot of them were there to help me. Not all, but a lot. And some of them, it took a little more time. They needed to see that I was serious. They needed to see that I was really going to make that effort. I wasn't just going through the motions. I wasn't just trying to stop. I was actually trying to change. They needed to see that with some time before they started. Before they started to believe that I was sincere, and then come back into my life and be supportive again. And I'm very fortunate that I understand that as well now. I don't hold it against anyone for for their parting during those moments and for being hesitant coming back. I'm not even upset or holding anything against some people that might still be distant and afraid or not wanting to interact or you know be a part of my life anymore. That's or me as part of theirs. That's understandable. Choices I made in the past have consequences. Not everyone's going to see things at the same time in the same way. That's fine. Those aren't things I can control. All I can control is what I do to the best of my ability. But there's people that have been there in the support, and whether they were there right from the get go or they're working in that direction, they've helped me. So from there, helping me, I can tell you with confidence that even if you have to step away, if someone doesn't want to be supportive, they might come around to it later. And you can reach out at that moment. So try not to get discouraged or frustrated if someone doesn't want your help. And understand that maybe it's something that you just can't help them with. It wasn't meant for you to be the one to help them. It's okay. That's fine. You know, if someone else can do that, great. The whole point of support isn't when you support someone, it's not about you. It's about them. It's not about getting a trophy for being the supportive one. You know, it's about being able to see their life get better. And you did what you could. If they didn't want your help, hey, you did what you could. You know, you're not going to get a trophy for being supportive. Boy, does it feel good when you do help. Just saying. So that is the wrap up of support. Like I said, last week it was about receiving support, the part I struggle with the most. This time, giving support. I think I covered it pretty well. Yeah, positive energy, laughter, love laughter. And then I guess I'm going to go a little bit more into that. So instead of one-on-one support, the bigger support. Part of this podcast, let's be realistic. Originally, I created Andy's Chomping at the Bit to help myself get in a routine, for one, uh, be able to address and talk about things that I was struggling with, to help myself mentally, was the main purpose originally for Andy's Chomping at the Bit. But it didn't take long before I realized other people were getting something out of it too, more than I was expecting. Um, and it grew more than I was expecting. Like I said, I wasn't never thought it'd be, and I still don't think it'll be something that's, you're never going to get rich and famous off of it. I don't want to get rich off of it necessarily, and I definitely don't want to get famous off of it. So if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But it started helping people in ways I didn't realize. People came out of the shadows, so to speak, and talked to me, sometimes privately, sometimes openly, about their struggles with addiction. People I never knew struggled with it, and it was weird because it was comforting for me to know that I wasn't alone. That there was all these people close to me that also were struggling. But it also comforted me that it helped them open up about it. It helped them step forward and grow with me during the journey, or they found someone else in their family or their friends who was struggling, and they were able to share something that I had done and help in that way. It's the little things like that you don't think of in the early moments, um, but it's those moments that keep me driving too. So they keep me going when I'm stressed, when it's 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting in front of a camera trying to make up and do a podcast that was supposed to go on the air at 6 a.m. that coming morning, and I've had a few of those times. So, but the drive is there because I know that it helps me, but it also helps a lot of other people, even if it's only one person. One person's always worth helping. So, if today's podcast helps one person, I am more than happy to do another one. So, and I'm confident it will. It's already helped me a little bit. So that's one person. But anyway, today that wraps up pretty well the support topic. But thank you guys for tuning in once again, and being there for me, taking the time to listen, um, following along. I do want to mention, though, that we have the Singing for a Cause event coming up here. That is, uh, so December 1st will be the next performance, I believe. I believe that falls on Sunday. Yeah. Um, I will announce soon, very soon, the charity for December. It actually will be a charity, not just charitable cause. Um, I'm just waiting to receive the official written permission for them. Um, but there will be the requested virtual live performance on December 1st, because that will be the first Sunday of the month, the first and third Sunday of every month from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You'll be able to watch the Singing for Cause requested live, virtual live performance. Yeah, so, and if you haven't tuned into one of those, you can go to, I believe Big Andy Media has some of those available, pre-recorded or previously done, as well as the Andy Schiffer music page. Um, it's a fun project right now, so hopefully you guys will get an opportunity to tune in and see that in the upcoming weeks as well. But once again, thank you for taking the time uh, to tune in and listen, and I will see you again on Monday for another Daily Biscuit. Take care.